The Majapahit was a Javanese Hindu thalassocratic empire in Southeast Asia that was based on the island of Java. It existed from 1293 to circa 1527 and reached its peak of glory during the era of Hayam Buruk, whose reign from 1350 to 1389 was marked by conquests that extended throughout Southeast Asia. His achievement is also credited to his prime minister, Gajah Mada. According to the Nagrakretagama written in 1365, Majapahit was an empire of 98 tributaries, stretching from Sumatra to New Guinea, consisting of present-day Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, southern Thailand, East Timor, southwestern Philippines. Although the scope of Majapahit's sphere of influence is still the subject of debate among historians. The nature of Majapahit relations and influences upon its overseas vassals, also its status as an empire, are still provoking discussions. Majapahit was one of the last major Hindu empires of the region and is considered to be one of the greatest and most powerful empires in the history of Indonesia and Southeast Asia. It is sometimes seen as the precedent for Indonesia's modern boundaries. Its influence extended beyond the modern territory of Indonesia and has been the subject of many studies. Etymology. The name Majapahit derives from local Javanese, meaning bitter maja. German Orientalist Berthold Laufer suggested that maja came from the Javanese name of Agel marmelos, an Indonesian tree. The name originally referred to the area in and around Trawulan, the cradle of Majapahit, which was linked to the establishment of a village in Tarik timberland by Raden Wijaya. It was said that the workers clearing the Tarik timberland encountered some bale trees and consumed its bitter-tasting fruit, which then gave its name to the village. It is a common practice in Java to name an area, a village or settlement, with the most conspicuous or abundant tree or fruit species found in that region. In ancient Java, it is common to refer the kingdom with its capital's name. Majapahit is also known by other names, Wilwadakta, although sometimes the natives refer to their kingdom as Bumi Jawa or Mandala Jawa instead. Historiography. Little physical evidence of Majapahit remains, and some details of the history are rather abstract. Nevertheless, local Javanese people did not forget Majapahit completely, as Mojopahit is mentioned vaguely in Babad Tanahawi, a Javanese chronicle composed in the 18th century. Majapahit did produce physical evidence. The main ruins dating from the Majapahit period are clustered in the Trawulan area, which was the royal capital of the kingdom. The Trawulan archaeological site was first documented in the 19th century by Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles, Lieutenant Governor of British Java of the East India Company from 1811 to 1816. He reported the existence of ruins of temples scattered about the country for many miles, and referred to Trawulan as this pride of Java. By the early 20th century, Dutch colonial historians began to study Old Javanese and Balinese literature to explore the past of their colony. Two primary sources were available to them. The Pereritan Book of Kings manuscript was written in the Kawi language circa 1600, and Nagrakretagama was composed in Kawi in 1365. Pereritan focuses on Kanarok, the founder of Singasari, but includes a number of shorter narrative fragments about the formation of Majapahit. The Nagrakretagama is an old Javanese epic poem written during the Majapahit Golden Age under the reign of Hayam Buruk, after which some events are covered narratively. The Dutch acquired the manuscript in 1894 during their military expedition against the Kekranagra royal house of Lombok. There are also some inscriptions in Kawi and Chinese. The Javanese sources incorporate some poetic mythological elements, and scholars such as Cornelis Christian Berg, an Indies-born Dutch naturalist, have considered the entire historical record to be not a record of the past, but a supernatural means by which the future can be determined. Most scholars do not accept this view, as the historical record corresponds with Chinese materials that could not have had similar intention. The list of rulers and details of the state structure show no sign of being invented. The Chinese historical sources on Majapahit mainly acquired from the chronicles of the Yuan and following Ming dynasty. The Chinese accounts on Majapahit are mainly owed to the Ming Admiral Zheng He's reports during his visit to Majapahit between 1405 and 1432. Zheng He's translator Ma Huan wrote a detailed description of Majapahit and where the king of Java lived. The report was composed and collected in Yingya Shenglan, which provides valuable insight on the culture, customs, also various social and economic aspects of Jawa during Majapahit period. The Trolan archaeological area has become the center for the study of Majapahit history. The aerial and satellite imagery has revealed an extensive network of canals crisscrossing the Majapahit capital. Recent archaeological findings from April 2011 indicate the Majapahit capital was much larger than previously believed after some artifacts were uncovered. History. Formation. After defeating the Melayu kingdom in Sumatra in 1290, Singasari became the most powerful kingdom in the region. Kublai Khan, the Khagan of the Mongol Empire and the emperor of the Mongol Yuan dynasty, challenged Singasari by sending emissaries demanding tribute. Kertanagara of Singasari refused to pay the tribute, insulted the Mongol envoy, and challenged the Khan instead. In response, Kublai Khan sent a massive expedition of 1,000 ships to Java in 1293. Mongol invasion. By that time, Jayakotwang, the Adipati of Kadiri, a vassal state of Singasari, had usurped and killed Kertanagara. After being pardoned by Jayakotwang with the aid of Madura's regent, Arya Wairaraja, Raden Wijaya, Kertanagara's son-in-law, was given the land of Tarak timberland. He then opened the vast timberland and built a new settlement there. The village was named Majapahit, which was taken from the name of a fruit that had a bitter taste. When the Mongolian Yuan army sent by Kublai Khan arrived, Wijaya allied himself with the army to fight against Jayakotwang. Once Jayakotwang was destroyed, Raden Wijaya forced his allies to withdraw from Java by launching a surprise attack. The Yuan army had to withdraw in confusion as they were in hostile territory, with their ships being attacked by Javanese navy. It was also their last chance to catch the monsoon winds home, otherwise, they would have had to wait for another 6 months. The first king, Kirtarajasa Jayawardhana. In 1293, Raden Wijaya founded a stronghold with the capital Majapahit. The exact date used as the birth of the Majapahit kingdom is the day of his coronation, the 15th of Kartika month in the year 1215 using the Javanese Shaka era, which equates to November 10, 1293. During his coronation he was given the formal name Kirtarajasa Jayawardhana. King Kirtarajasa took all 4 daughters of Kertanagara as his wives, his first wife and prime queen consort Tribhuwaneswari, and her sisters, Prajnaparamita, Narendradutta, and Gayatri Rajapatni the youngest. He also took a Sumatran Malay Dharmasraya princess named Dara Petak as his wife. The new kingdom faced challenges. Some of Kirtarajasa's most trusted men, including Ranggalawe, Sora, and Nambi rebelled against him, though unsuccessfully. It was suspected that the Mahapati Halayata set the conspiracy to overthrow all of his rivals in the court, led them to revolt against the king, while he gained king's favor and attained the highest position in the government. However, following the death of the last rebel Kuti, Halayata's treachery was exposed. Subsequently, he was captured, jailed for his stratagems and then sentenced to death. Wijaya himself died in 1309. Jayanagra. Kirtarajasa Wijaya was succeeded by his heir Jayanagra, his son with his Malayu Dharmasraya spouse, Indreswari. The reign of Jayanagra was a difficult and chaotic one, troubled with several rebellions by his father's former companions in arms. Among others are Gajah Biru's rebellion in 1314 and the Kuti rebellion in 1319. The Kuti rebellion was the most dangerous one, as Kuti managed to take control of the capital city. With the help of Gajah Mata and his Bhayankara palace guard, Jayanagra barely escaped from the capital and safely hid in Badender village. While the king was in hiding, Gajah Mata returned to the capital city to assess the situation. After learning that Kuti's rebellion was not supported by the people or nobles of Majapahit court, Gajah Mata raised resistance forces to crush the Kuti rebellion. After Kuti forces were defeated, Jayanagra was safely returned to his throne. For his loyalty and excellent service, Gajah Mata was promoted to high office to begin his career in royal court politics. According to tradition, Wijaya's son and successor, Jayanagra, was notorious for his immorality. One of his distasteful acts was his desire to take his half-sisters, Jatarja and Rajadui, as wives. Since Javanese tradition abhorred the practice of half-siblings marrying, the Council of Royal Elders spoke strongly against the king's wishes. It was not clear what motivated Jayanagra's wish. It might have been his way to ensure his claim to the throne by preventing rivals from being his half-sister's suitors, although in the later period of the Majapahit court the custom of marriage among cousins was quite common. In the Pereritan, he was known as Kala Jemet, or weak villain. About the time of Jayanagra's reign, the Italian friar Odoric of Pordenone visited the Majapahit court in Java. In 1328, Jayanagra was murdered by his physician, Tanka, during a surgical operation. In complete mayhem and rage, Gajah Mada immediately killed Tanka. The motive behind this regicide was never clear. According to the Parariton, it was Tanka's revenge for the king sexually abusing his wife. However, according to the Balinese manuscript Babad Dalam, the assassination was a stratagem crafted by Gajah Mada himself to rid the kingdom of an evil tyrant. Tradition mentions that the immoral, cruel and abusive king often seduced and abused women, even the wives of his own subordinates. Other possible reason includes to protect the two princesses, Jatarja and Rajadui, the daughters of Gayatri Rajapatni, from the king's cruelty. Since the slain king was childless, he left no successor. Golden Age. Queen Tribhuwana Wijaya Chungadui. Jayanagra's stepmother, Gayatri Rajapatni, the most revered matriarch of the court, was supposed to take the helm. However, Rajapatni had retired from worldly affairs to become a Buddhist nun. Rajapatni appointed her daughter, Diyajatarja, or known in her formal regnal name as Tribhuwana Tungadwi Jayashnawardhani, as the queen of Majapahit under Rajapatni's auspices. Tribhuwana appointed Gajah Mada as the prime minister in 1336. During his inauguration, Gajah Mada declared his Palapa oath, revealing his plan to expand Majapahit realm and building an empire. During Tribhuwana's rule, the Majapahit kingdom grew much larger and became famous in the area. Under the initiative of her able and ambitious prime minister, Gajah Mada, Majapahit sent its armada to conquer the neighboring island of Bali. According to the Babad Arya Tabanan manuscript, in 1342 Majapahit forces led by Gajah Mada, assisted by his general Arya Damar, the regent of Palembang, landed in Bali. After 7 months of battles, Majapahit forces defeated the Balinese king and captured the Balinese capital of Bedulu in 1343. After the conquest of Bali, Majapahit distributed the governing authority of Bali among Arya Damar's younger brothers, Arya Kenseng, Arya Kutawandira, Arya Sentong, and Arya Balag. Arya Kenseng led his brothers to govern Bali under Majapahit suzerainty, and he would become the progenitor of the Balinese kings of the Tabanan and Badung royal houses. Through this campaign, Majapahit planted a vassal dynasty that would rule the Bali kingdom in the following centuries. Tribhuwana ruled Majapahit until the death of her mother in 1350. She abdicated the throne in favor of her son, Hyamvuruk. Reign of Hyamvuruk and Gajah Mada's conquest. Hyamvuruk, also known as Rajasanagara, ruled Majapahit in 1350–89. During this period, Majapahit attained its peak with the help of the Prime Minister Gajah Mada. Under Gajah Mada's command, Majapahit conquered more territories and became the regional power. According to the Nagrakretagama, Canto 13 and 14 mention several states in Sumatra, Malay Peninsula, Borneo, Sulawesi, Nusa Tenggara Islands, Maluku, New Guinea, Mindanao, Sulu Archipelago, Luzon and some parts of the Visayas Islands as under the Majapahit realm of power. The Hikayat Rajapasai, a 14th-century Aceh chronicle, describe a Majapahit naval invasion on Samudra Pasai in 1350. The attacking force consisted of 400 large jong and an uncountable number of Malongbang and Kalulis. This expansion marked the greatest extent of Majapahit, making it one of the most influential empires in Indonesian history. It is considered as a commercial trading empire in the civilization of Asia. Along with launching naval and military expeditions, the expansion of the Majapahit Empire also involved diplomacy and alliance. Hyamvuruk decided, probably for political reasons, to take Princess Citra Rashmi of neighboring Sunda Kingdom as his consort. The Sundanese took this proposal as an alliance agreement. In 1357 the Sunda king and his royal family came to Majapahit to accompany and marry his daughter to Hyamvuruk. However, Gajah Mada saw this event as an opportunity to demand Sunda's submission to Majapahit overlordship. The skirmish between the Sunda royal family and the Majapahit troops on Babat Square was inevitable. Despite courageous resistance, the royal family were overwhelmed and decimated. Almost the whole of the Sundanese royal party was killed. Tradition mentioned that the heartbroken princess committed suicide to defend the honor of her country. The Battle of Babat, or the Pasanda Babat tragedy, became the main theme of Kidung Sunda, also mentioned in Karita Parahyangan and Pararitan, however it was never mentioned in Nagrakretagama. The Nagrakretagama, written in 1365, depicts a sophisticated court with refined taste in art and literature and a complex system of religious rituals. The poet describes Majapahit as the center of a huge mandala extending from New Guinea and Maluku to Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula. Local traditions in many parts of Indonesia retain accounts of 14th-century Majapahit's power in more or less legendary form. The direct administration of Majapahit did not extend beyond East Java and Bali, but challenges to Majapahit's claim to overlordship in outer islands drew forceful responses. To revive the fortune of Malayu in Sumatra, in the 1370s, a Malay ruler of Palembang sent an envoy to the court of the first emperor of the newly established Ming dynasty. He invited China to resume the tributary system, just like Srivijaya did several centuries earlier. Learning this diplomatic maneuver, immediately King Hyam-Wuruk sent an envoy to Nanking, convinced the emperor that Malayu was their vassal, and was not an independent country. Subsequently, in 1377, a few years after the death of Gajah Mada, Majapahit sent a punitive naval attack against a rebellion in Palembang, contributing to the end of Srivijayan's successor kingdom. Gajah Mada's other renowned general was Aditya Warman, known for his conquest in Minangkabau. The nature of the Majapahit Empire and its extent is subject to debate. It may have had limited or entirely notional influence over some of the tributary states, including Sumatra, the Malay Peninsula, Kalimantan, and eastern Indonesia, over which authority was claimed in the Nagrakretagama. Geographical and economic constraints suggest that rather than a regular centralized authority, the outer states were most likely to have been connected mainly by trade connections, which were probably a royal monopoly. It also claimed relationships with Champa, Cambodia, Siam, southern Burma, and Vietnam, and even sent missions to China. Although the Majapahit rulers extended their power over other islands and destroyed neighboring kingdoms, their focus seems to have been on controlling and gaining a larger share of the commercial trade that passed through the archipelago. About the time Majapahit was founded, Muslim traders and proselytizers began entering the area. The Troloyo tomb, a remnant of Islamic cemetery compound, was discovered within the Traulan area, the royal capital of Majapahit. Experts suggest that the cemetery was used between 1368 and 1611 CE, which means Muslim traders had resided in the capital as early as the mid-14th century during the reign of Hyam-Wuruk. Decline. Following Hyam-Wuruk's death in 1389, Majapahit power entered a period of decline with conflict over succession. Hyam-Wuruk was succeeded by the Crown Princess Kusumawardhani, who married a relative, Prince Wikramawardhana. Hyam-Wuruk also had a son from his previous marriage, the Crown Prince Wairabhumi, who also claimed the throne. By the time of Hyam-Wuruk's death, Majapahit has lost its grip on its vassal states in the northern coasts of Sumatra and Malay Peninsula, the latter which according to Chinese sources, would become a tributary state of the Ayutthaya Kingdom until the rise of Malacca Sultanate, supported by the Ming dynasty. In the 14th century a Malay kingdom of Singapura was established, and it promptly attracted a Majapahit navy that regarded it as Tumasik, a rebellious colony. Singapura was finally sacked by Majapahit in 1398, after approximately 1 month-long siege by 300 Jong and 200,000 soldiers. The last king, Sri Iskandar Shah, fled to the west coast of the Malay Peninsula to establish the Malacca Sultanate in 1400. Paragreg War. A civil war, called the Paragreg War, is thought to have occurred from 1405 to 1406. The war was fought as a contest of succession between the Western court led by Wikramawardhana and the Eastern court led by Wairabhumi. Wikramawardhana was victorious. Wairabhumi was caught and decapitated. However, the civil war drained financial resources, exhausted the kingdom, and weakened Majapahit's grip on its outer vassals and colonies. Despite being weakened by internal struggle, in 1409 Majapahit continued the invasion against the West Sumatran Pagaruyung kingdom, as recorded in a semi-legendary account of the Minangkabau legend. It was mentioned that the Javanese force was defeated in a buffalo fight. Wikramawardhana and Ming expedition. During the reign of Wikramawardhana, a series of Ming Armada naval expeditions led by Zheng He, a Muslim Chinese admiral, arrived in Java several times spanning the period from 1405 to 1433. These Chinese voyages visited numbers of ports in Asia as far as Africa, including Majapahit ports. It was said that Zheng He has paid a visit to the Majapahit court in Java. These massive Chinese voyages were not merely a naval exploration, but also a show of power and a display of geopolitical reach. The Chinese Ming dynasty had recently overthrown the Mongols' Yuan dynasty, and was eager to establish their hegemony in the world, which changed the geopolitical balance in Asia. Chinese intervened in the politics of the southern seas by supporting ties against the declining Khmer Empire, support and installing allied factions in India, Sri Lanka and other places in Indian Ocean coasts. However, perhaps the most significant Chinese intervention was its support for the newly established Sultanate of Malacca, as a rival and counterweight to the Majapahit influence of Java. Previously, Majapahit had succeeded in asserting its influence in Malacca Strait by containing the aspiration of Malay polities in Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula to ever reach the geopolitical might like those of Srivijaya. The Hindu Majapahit was the most powerful maritime power in Southeast Asian seas that time and were opposed to Chinese expansion into their sphere of influence. The Ming support for Malacca and the spread of Islam propagated by both Malacca and Zheng He's treasure fleet has weakened Majapahit maritime influence in Sumatra, which caused the northern part of the island to increasingly converting to Islam and gained independence from Majapahit, leaving Indragiri, Jambi, and Palembang, remnants of the old Srivijaya, the only suzerainty under Majapahit in Sumatra, bordering Pagaruyung Kingdom on the west and independent Muslim kingdoms on the north. This Ming dynasty voyages is extremely important for Majapahit historiography, since Zheng He's translator Ma Huan wrote Yingya Shenglan, a detailed description of Majapahit, which provides valuable insight on the culture, customs, also various social and economic aspects of Java during Majapahit period. The Chinese provided systematic support to Malacca, and its sultan made at least one trip to personally pay obeisance to the Ming emperor. Malacca actively encouraged the conversion to Islam in the region, while the Ming fleet actively established Chinese Malay Muslim community in coastal northern Java, thus created a permanent opposition to the Hindus of Java. By 1430, the expeditions had established Muslim Chinese, Arab and Malay communities in northern ports of Java such as Semarang, Demak, Tuban, and Ampel, thus Islam began to gain a foothold on the northern coast of Java. Malacca prospered under Chinese Ming protection, while the Majapahit were steadily pushed back. Queen Suhita Wikramawardhana ruled until 1426 and was succeeded by his daughter Suhita, who ruled from 1426 to 1447. She was the second child of Wikramawardhana by a concubine who was the daughter of Wairabhumi. The reign of Suhita was the second time Majapahit was reigned by a queen regnant after her great-grandmother Tribhuwana Wijayachangadui. Her reign is immortalized in Javanese legend of Damarulan, as it involves a maiden queen named Prabu Kenya in the story, and during Suhita's reign there was a war with Blambangan as stated in the legend. In 1447, Suhita died and was succeeded by Kertawijaya, her brother. He ruled until 1451. After Kertawijaya died, Prapamotan became a king with formal name Rajasawardhana. He died in 1453. A 3-year kingless period was possibly the result of a succession crisis. Jarasawardhana, son of Kertawijaya, came to power in 1456. He died in 1466 and was succeeded by Singhawikramawardhana. The divide. In 1468 Prince Kertabhumi rebelled against Singhawikramawardhana, promoting himself as the king of Majapahit. Deposed Singhawikramawardhana retreated upstream of Brantas River, moved the kingdom's capital further inland to Daha, effectively splitting Majapahit, under Kertabhumi and Traolan and Singhawikramawardhana in Daha. Singhawikramawardhana continued his rule until he was succeeded by his son Jarindrawardhana in 1474. And in between this period of the dividing court of Majapahit, the kingdom found itself unable to control its western part of the already crumbling empire. The rising power of the Sultanate of Malacca began to gain effective control of Malacca Strait in the mid-15th century and expanding its influence to Sumatra. And amidst these events, Indragiri and Siantan, according to Malay annals, were given to Malacca as a dowry for the marriage of a Majapahit princess and the Sultan of Malacca, further weakening Majapahit's influence on the western part of the archipelago. Kurtubumi managed to stabilize this situation by allying with Muslim merchants, giving them trading rights on the north coast of Java, with Demak as its center, and in return asked for their loyalty to Majapahit. This policy boosted the Majapahit treasury and power but weakened Hindu Buddhism as its main religion because Islamic proselytizing spread faster, especially in Javanese coastal principalities. Hindu Buddhist followers' grievances later paved the way for Rana Wijaya to defeat Kurtubumi. Dates for the end of the Majapahit Empire range from 1478, traditionally described in Sinkalan or Chandrasankala Surna Alang Kirtaning Bhumi, that is correspond to 1400 Saka, the ends of centuries being considered a time when changes of dynasty or courts normally ended, to 1527. The year 1478 was the year of Sudharma Visuddha War, when Rana Wijaya's army under General Udara breached Traulan defences and killed Kurtubumi in his palace, but not the actual fall of Majapahit itself as a whole. Demak sent reinforcements under Sanan Mdung, who later died in battle and was replaced by Sanan Kudus, but they came too late to save Kurtubumi, although they managed to repel the Rana Wijaya army. This event is mentioned in Trailokyapuri and Petak inscription, where Rana Wijaya claimed that he already defeated Kurtubumi and reunited Majapahit as one kingdom. Rana Wijaya ruled from 1474 to 1498 with the formal name Jharindradana, with Udara as his vice-regent. This event led to the war between the Sultanate of Demak and Daha, since Demak rulers were descendants of Kurtubumi. During this period of Majapahit's retreat to the inland Daha and war in Java, Demak, being the dominant ruler of the Javanese coastal lands and Java as a whole, seized the region of Jambi and Palembang in Sumatra from Majapahit. Demak invasion and the fall of Majapahit. In 1498, there was a turning point when Jharindradana was deposed by his vice-regent, Udara. After this coup, the war between Demak and Daha receded, since Raden Pata, Sultan of Demak, left Daha alone like his father had done before. Some source said Udara agreed to become a vassal of Demak, even marrying Raden Pata's youngest daughter. Meanwhile, in the west, Malacca was captured by Portuguese in 1511. The delicate balance between Demak and Daha ended when Udara, seeing an opportunity to eliminate Demak, asked for Portuguese help in Malacca, forcing Demak to attack both Malacca and Daha under Adipati Yunus to end this alliance. With the fall of Daha, crushed by Demak in 1527, the Muslim emerging forces finally defeated the remnants of the Majapahit kingdom in the early 16th century. And with the fall of Daha, a large number of courtiers, artisans, priests, and members of the royalty moved east to the island of Bali. The refugees fled to the east to avoid Demak retribution for their support for Rana Wijaya against Kurtubumi. Demak came under the leadership of Raden Pata, who was acknowledged as the legitimate successor of Majapahit. According to Babad Tanahawi and Demak tradition, the source of Pata's legitimacy was because their first sultan, Raden Pata, was the son of Majapahit king Brahihaya V with a Chinese concubine. Another argument supports Demak as the successor of Majapahit. The rising Demak Sultanate was easily accepted as the nominal regional ruler, as Demak was a former Majapahit vassal and located near the former Majapahit realm in eastern Java. Demak established itself as the regional power and the first Islamic Sultanate in Java. After the fall of Majapahit, the Hindu kingdoms in Java only remained in Blambangan on the eastern edge and Sunda Kingdom Pajajaran in the western part. Gradually Hindu communities began to retreat to the mountain ranges in East Java and also to the neighboring island of Bali. A small enclave of Hindu communities remain in the Tengger mountain range.